One thing that so many Christians need to stop doing is to stop comparing themselves to other Christians in terms of defining what it means to live the Christian life. I actually believe that doing this is one of the most dangerous and damaging things that a person can do for their spiritual life, and I'm going to tell you why in this video. First, let's have a look at a scenario. Many people were actually introduced to Christianity and even come to faith initially in a church which is spiritually shallow. It may have watered down preaching, the congregation is spiritually immature, and there's no conviction to live the type of Christian life that the Bible talks about. These people, they lack strong biblical convictions. They don't live a life that is surrendered to Christ with Him at the center, but rather they live comfortable lives which have been shaped by cultural Christianity, which is very different to how the Bible teaches and commands that a Christian is to live. So if a person is exposed to this type of Christianity, of course this is what they're going to think Christianity is. How can they know any different? But then imagine this Christian, all of a sudden they get into the Word, they start to really understand the Bible, they start to listen to good preachers, and they begin to realize that how God desires us to live is actually very different from what they're seeing around them. Now, what do you think happens when they try to tell other people the problems that are taking place in cultural Christianity? Most of the time there'll be resistance. And the reason for this is that these other people, they're looking to other Christians and they're thinking, well, this person's doing this person's doing that, and maybe even this leader's doing that. This is the way that they're living. Therefore, the way that I'm living is okay. Because they're basing their standard of what it means to live the Christian life on other people. And they're thinking to themselves, they're justifying themselves because they're saying, well, you know, they're listening to this type of music, they're watching these types of movies, they're going to these types of places, they're spending their time in this way, they're spending their money in this way, therefore it's okay for me to do the same. Now there's a couple of groups of people here. One group will justify themselves like this because they don't want to live up to the biblical standard. They know what the biblical standard is and they just don't want to. They want to live a comfortable, compromised life. But then there are those people who genuinely, they don't even know that what they're seeing around them doesn't align with the biblical standard because they've been so conditioned by cultural Christianity. And as I said, they justify the way they're living because, well, everyone else is living like that. Even though everyone else is living by a standard that is very different to what the Bible lays out for the standard of Christian living and a life that is pleasing to God. Let me give you an illustration to communicate the danger of this, right? So, say you wanted to measure an object. You could get out a measuring tape and you would put this against the object and you can see the size of the object. But imagine if this measuring tape actually had the wrong measurements on it. You could put this against the object, but you would get a wrong measurement of that particular object. And this is exactly what people are doing when they are measuring themselves by the way that other Christians are living. They're getting a wrong measurement. The only true measurement is the Bible. This is the standard. This is the measurement. This lays forth how a Christian is to live. It lays forth how God desires us to live a life that is pleasing to Him. And we need to measure our own life by this standard, not by this false standard, because all that does is it leads to deception. And what you want to do when you get before God is that you want to come to Him in prayer and the Word, and you want to say, God, help me to develop discernment, help me to develop strong convictions, help me to see things the way that you want me to and to live in the way that you want me to. And the motivation of this should always be a love for Him, that we recognize how great and how glorious God is, and we want to live a life that is pleasing to Him because of what He has done for us, and we want to delight to live the way that He has laid forth. Now, there are other people out there, obviously, that are desiring to live by the standard of the Word of God. And if you can find people like that and surround yourself with people like that, even a person like that, it's going to be a great blessing. And you will be able to help one another, to point one another to the standard of the Word of God, to keep each other accountable, to speak into each other's lives. But the standard is never how that other person or those other people are living. It's always the Bible, and you are always pointing them back to that standard, and they are always pointing you back to that standard, because if not, there's the potential to fall into that trap all over again, where we are judging ourselves, measuring ourselves based on how someone else is living, and it may not align with what the Bible communicates. So the takeaway from this video is that there is a great danger in comparing yourself to other Christians, because you have the potential to deceive yourself when you're thinking that these people are living the Christian life and you're living like them, when they're actually living a life that is far from how God commands us to live, and a life that is pleasing to God. One final point: when you desire to live this life of strong biblical convictions, living a life that is pleasing to God regardless of how anyone else is living around you, you're going to get people that come against you and people that call you legalistic and other names like that. If you want to find out more about this and why they do this, you can click on the video that I've got up on the screen. Leave your comments on this particular video. I'd love to get your thoughts on it, and I'll talk to you very soon. God bless you, brothers and sisters.